You got the theme and everything, right?
Hey Omega.
Yes. You.
It's Yanko.
Right.
So, let me ask you a question. What has 2 legs, 2 arms, and didn't show up for a podcast this week?
An Olympic athlete that did not get to go to Sochi.
Only if it was the Special Olympics. I, of course, was referring to a certain poopy head. But we'll ignore that and get right into the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am your humble host, Isaac Yankum DDS. We are missing a man tonight, so I am taking over his duties and doing double duties, and that's a lot of duty. To my left, via the brilliance of the interwebs, is the amazing, my most esteemed colleague, Omega BR.
I guess I can't be too mad since I ended up missing the show last week. But to be fair, I was on assignment covering the opening ceremonies.
The opening ceremonies of what?
The new Denny's on Highway 7.
That is indeed important, and we'll have you tell us about that later.
25 customers got a free brand sleep.
Oh, wow. Also joining us this week. It never was any good. You were just drunk before. Also joining us this week is Ned Jester.
Yankum, I have to ask before we go on, is it still here? Or is the big red troll gone?
I would rather it was here than you. So with that said, we're going to do something a little different. Yes, it's gone. R&D is gone. No, because we're shaking up the show, and we're doing something that we've never ever done before. We're starting off with the news. So let's see here. With the recent chaos and crowd reaction, WWE is holding off until after Elimination Chamber to gauge where they're at as far as WrestleMania plans. We did talk about this last week with the Orton versus Batista and Bryan versus Triple H and all that. But although Daniel Bryan could be added, they're talking about adding Bryan to the match, which we talked about before. The other configurations. Also adding to the news of that is the plans for Hulk Hogan to be the host of WrestleMania 30, similar to the Rock's role at WrestleMania 27, which possibly could lead to the same thing that happened at WrestleMania 28, I guess, where The Rock was like, oh, I hosted last year, now I'm in a match, whoop-de-doo.
Oh yeah, that's all we need. Remember, Hogan did not get medically cleared. I doubt a year is going to change anything.
it is kind of funny how they really try to not book it entirely, but have their outline for each WrestleMania these years a year in advance, basically. They kind of had this idea in their head, last year, which now is sort of all up in the air, which really they should play it by ear anyway. It's okay to have kind of an idea, but when you try to work toward that ideal, put it this way, this whole Authority storyline, which is really kind of falling flat, that was all all kind of building to this idea that it might be Triple H versus a Vince representative for control of the company, and they've barely touched on that, which again, it's easy to forget that WrestleMania is still a little under 2 months away, so it's not like they couldn't do it, but it just seems like so many chaotic things have happened, and it's not even a matter of people being injured even, really, which is what you might think. It's the fact that, certain people were elevated and stayed in that position, whether they kind of want to admit it or not, and,
Well, broad outlines is one thing. Set in stone only ever worked for Moses.
Yeah, I don't know that they should be trying as hard to have what they're doing at the a year ahead so far planned out. They barely even know what they're doing between Raws.
And that's kind of been a theme of Raw recently. I feel like a lot of the in-ring action is pretty good, but everything surrounding it is pretty bad and kind of just stalling and, in between pay-per-view. And obviously they're focused on the network too, but, that's got other stuff to mention about that a little later, but let's jump over to TNA for a moment if we shall. It seems that you might have heard about the deal struck with Wrestle One promotion in Japan, run by the Great Muta, who will be attending and competing at TNA Lockdown along with Seiya Sanada, while TNA will send 11 of their stars, perhaps more, to a special pay-per-view taping on March 2nd, I believe, with Wrestle One in Japan. It's a TNA versus Wrestle One theme. There were rumors that if Vince Russo was included back in TNA, that could hurt that deal, as Russo has a bad reputation for being racist against Japanese for some of the things he's done in the past, particularly in WCW. Kurt Angle is said to be in actually pretty bad shape. He was in a wheelchair during most of the European tour, when not on television, and he'll likely go in for some kind of surgery post-lockdown. And it seems the reason Toby Keith, his purchase of TNA fell through, was not due to money, which they were very close on, but rather the fact that Bob Carter insisted that his daughter Dixie retain some power, her title, and her television character. And since Keith was unwilling to give up anything creatively, the deal fell through. And his new product with Jeff Jarrett is said to be in the infantile stages. Likely won't debut till the end of the year at the earliest.
Where to begin? Maybe having Wrestle One come in will inject some much needed, adrenaline to TNA. That could really help them. Or it could just be more of the same old shit, only there's Japanese wrestlers there, and, good matches, and that's all that happens with it. Let's see here. Russo being involved with TNA, do not want. Angle being banged up is sad, but not surprising at all. With his history of injuries and everything, it's just not something that I'm surprised to hear about, but I am, of course, very sad to hear that.
Kurt needs to retire.
Yeah, I think it's time, and maybe even take his WWE Hall of Fame induction. The whole thing with Toby Keith, of course, Bob Carter is a gigantic fucking piece of shit for doing that, because TNA could have got good, because really all they need to do is get rid of the bullshit.
So if Dixie just went, just leave me in the company with my TV character and I'll do anything you want, forgo the power, forgo the title, do you think it still would have been okay, or do we need a total Carter amputation at this point?
I think if he was going to buy it, he would want it to be his. He wouldn't want the Carters to be involved, even if on screen, because it's just a big headache. And obviously he's not buying it as some kind of financier vanity thing. He's buying it to actually try and make it something. But, obviously they decided they could just go ahead and do their own thing, so, that's what they're going to do. A lot of these TNA deals, WrestleMania's good and everything, but a lot of these TNA deals, it feels like, they'll get a big contract, or they'll manage to secure a piece of land that is oil rich, and instead of harvesting the oil, they build a pizza hut on top of it. That seems to be TNA.
But who doesn't love pizza?
Yes, indeed.
Alright, well, let's see. NBC Universal has until Friday to answer the WWE's final offer on TV rights, or WWE will begin to entertain other offers. While they want to remain with NBC, they will definitely move if the deal is better, and the pressure isn't nearly what it's been in the past due to the network launch. Word is WWE will officially switch to the WWE Network logo as their new official company logo. Yay! It's about time. Once it launches in 2 weeks, WWE announced at Raw that SummerSlam will return to the Staples Center this year, and although Seattle was originally rumored to be the site of the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, it was announced to be at the Izod Center in New Jersey. There was said to be a push for more West Coast shows early next year due to the terrible weather conditions on the East Coast this year, which we talked about last week. Both Punk and The Miz are no longer listed for At Midnight this week, but Chris Hardwick said he was hopeful they could get Punk on a future episode, and Chris Jericho is still slated to appear in March.
Oh boy. Well, that's too bad about At Midnight, but what do you, if the oh jeez, which one was it? Extreme Rules pay-per-view. If the Extreme Rules pay-per-view is not going to be in Seattle, does that mean we're still seeing some negative side effects of Hunter not wanting to push Daniel?
That's always in the back of your mind. I'm not sure that's really the idea. It's not like it was ever officially announced that Seattle would have it. I think it was actually the Seattle Arena that sort of announced it without announcing it, kind of hinted at the Facebook page. I know there's been this talk of, especially since Seattle, it is Daniel Bryan's home turf, and Seattle did win the Super Bowl, so they were maybe trying to get, their guys to appear at WrestleMania and that whole thing. I don't know. It's kind of... It seems like it would make sense. I don't want to speculate too hard on things that, it could be any number of factors, scheduling, travel, this and that, arena fees, all that good stuff. So, that's always an idea that's in the back of your mind. I don't think it's one to take seriously at this juncture. You talk about SummerSlam being in the Staples Center again instead of maybe at Madison Square Garden. I think that, if anything, it's convenience. It's ease, it's convenience, it's familiarity in a way. And it's not like that's kind of a WWE mantra. You stay with what's familiar, and you'll do okay. But, if they took a risk every once in a while, they could give them a break. That's kind of the idea.
Anybody else glad that they're finally going to change the logo?
I'm
It's
a
one of
little
those-
hot and cold on it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I don't really care that much, but it is nice to have a new thing. It's nice to have a new championship every, 8 to 12 years. It's nice to, speaking of which, I wonder if they're going to debut a new belt, because that logo was front and center on it.
Right.
Oh, that's all we need. Remember Matt Hardy's Warrior belt? I can imagine the new WWE logo belt looking something like that.
Wasn't that Jeff's weirdo multicolored belt?
Jeff Hardy. Okay, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, tomato, tomato. Let's call the whole thing off.
No, one of them is talented. One of them is good at wrestling. I know that doesn't necessarily make sense, but you know what I mean.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, that whole TV rights thing. It's just a wait and see there. Big things happening in WWE besides the network. The idea they're working on concepts to bring in Sting should he agree to terms, which of course is very close, has been for a few weeks now. The idea is to call him a man called Sting, WCW trademark. However, his joining the company is not internally being viewed as such a big deal as some other people in the past, like Hulk Hogan or Brock Lesnar. Although people do realize he's about the final piece of the WCW puzzle. Speaking of Hogan, he and Jimmy Hart are confirmed to be on the Raw After Elimination Chamber, which is the big network launch night, along with stars such as Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker himself. WWE may have offered a contract to Pro Wrestling Noah star Kenta, who was at the Performance Center a couple weeks ago for a tryout, though the feeling is Kenta will remain loyal to Noah and simply scouting the competitions himself. Officials also continue to negotiate with international star Prince Devitt, who would have to give up his lucrative New Japan roster spot and move from his home in Ireland to join the promotion. And it seems the original Sin Cara, I know we're all very worried about, has signed with the World Wrestling League in Puerto Rico. And apparently he is using the Sin Cara name and a mask that's extremely similar, if not the exact same thing. There might be a different twinge to the horn here, or a couple different lines. But it is basically the same. So.
Wow, you think Vince is going to let that run for a few minutes?
It's kind of hard to say, because, WWE... things kind of... I think he's under the impression that things work differently in Mexico, which they probably do. And as far as, masks and gimmicks and things like that. I think he even said in an interview, it's kind of the idea that everybody he banks on the fact that everybody knows he's Sin Cara, and he went to WWE to become Sin Cara, and that just because he left doesn't mean he's not Sin Cara. But legally, I think, it might be a different tune. It's kind of hard to say. Maybe WWE wouldn't bother. I guess the big thing would be if WWE has their own Sin Cara still, with Umigo and everything. They certainly don't want it to appear as if one of their representatives is down in Puerto Rico doing
Right.
whatever.
I
And
just don't know why it doesn't go back to Mystico.
They certainly wouldn't have a problem with the copyright, since Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory and subject to all.
Yeah. And to Netchester's point, it's because they have a new Mystico now, and he's sort of evolved from that. And,
Okay.
And he left. Yeah, as soon as he left, they kind of debuted the new Mystico. And he also left that promotion on bad terms, so a lot of people thought he would be joining the other promotion. And I forget which is which now. I think he left CM LL on bad terms. He's going to show up in AAA.
So real quick, before we move on, Sting in WWE, are we finally going to see it?
Possibly, but I don't think we're going to ever see Sting versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
I'm going to go ahead and be confident and say it is going to happen. They're going to do it sort of like they did Goldberg when he debuted, and that was they aired this teaser during WrestleMania, and then the next night he just kind of showed up and speared The Rock, and you know, I don't think they might not put Sting in a match right away like they did Goldberg, and you know, build him up like that, but I think he'll have sort of an Undertaker deal where he appears. He might have a match at SummerSlam. He might do, you know, another pay-per-view, and then they can kind of build him up to next year's WrestleMania. I think that's probably the plan. It's not a bad one.
Alrighty, well, moving on, the WWE and other things that they're doing, they continue talks with Stacy Keibler about possibly appearing at WrestleMania and being inducted into the Hall of Fame due to her mainstream success. Read as she used to have sex with some famous guy. Yeah. So, Ocean's 11.
Now that was a movie.
So anyways, they're viewing that as a way to help legitimize the company. Also, JBL recently confirmed in an interview an old story about talking with Vince McMahon on a flight to England, where McMahon suggested they put a blue dot over Christian's face due to how ratty it looked. I'm not sure. The same flight produced the Spirit Squad idea. Dan Severn revealed in a recent interview that he considered shooting during the '99 Royal Rumble, eliminating as many people as he could until they dragged him out of the arena to cause a spectacle.
Okay, I really want to get into that story, but real quick, McMahon, if anyone should have put a blue dot over another person's face, we should have put a blue dot over yours a long time ago.
The whole story behind that is that I'm sure they had a few drinks in them too. But the idea was he saw this trial about I think it was a congressman or a politician who was accused of sexual assault. And when he was on the stand on TV, they put a blue dot over his face. And I'm not sure why. Maybe some kind of legality or something. But anyway,
I think I know this story, and not to interrupt, but I think it was the sexual assault victim that they blurred the face of, or put a blue dot over.
That could be. That makes sense. Yeah. But anyway, watching the court, and there's the blue dot, and so, you know, they're just shooting around. And apparently this was right around when Christian was really starting to get popular and was kind of on the edge of being world heavyweight champion. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think they kind of see Christian as one of their kind of people, you know, up against the glass ceiling, kind of, so to speak. You know, he's a popular guy and everything, but I've even heard rumors that, you know, if they really want to shove somebody else in the Elimination Chamber, like last minute, and have somebody get attacked and replaced, then it would probably be Christian. So,
and that
so,
sucks.
You know, it's just, yeah. I
Well,
mean, you know, he is starting to get up there in years a little bit, and, you know, he does tend to get injured.
So then, why would the Beast at the '99 Royal Rumble want to shoot on the Royal Rumble match? What did I miss?
well,
I think he...
go ahead, Omega.
Well, I think he... No, you are 60.
Well, I was going to say, at that point, he probably just wasn't really happy with, you know, where he was at and what he was doing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So, in order to get attention or just to get out, of the company and not have to be miserable anymore, that would be a damn good way to do it. I couldn't actually. That would probably be better than walking out, because nobody would ever stop talking about that. We would still be talking about that to this day.
Wanted to do a thing, you know. He could. Who knows how serious? You know, maybe he's just goofing around. It was, you know, over, 10 years ago and everything. It was like 15 years ago now, which is hard to believe. Almost. And Keebler, she's had some mainstream stuff. A little mainstream. I kind of don't think they'll do it now because they already announced the lead-up for the Hall of Fame. So,
one diva at a time.
1 year, what would the world be coming to?
Yeah. Alright, let's wrap this up. Gunner's the glue. He's the train that keeps this track on the... See, I can't even get the analogy.
I don't even know where you're going with that.
Here's some tidbits. How about DDP will be on ABC's Shark Tank on February 21st to pitch DDP yoga to the investors. If you don't know Shark Tank, is basically a bunch of self-made millionaire and billionaires listen to entrepreneur pitches and decide whether they want to invest in it. And a lot of times it'll be an already successful business. It's just a matter of making it bigger, But anyway, the end of the National Pro Wrestling Day event the other week resulted in the announcement that Chikara will return with an event in Easton on March 25th after nearly a year-long hiatus. Quite the bizarre and somewhat complicated online presence. Some would call it an alternate reality game. A WhiteHouse.gov petition to give Daniel Bryan a WWE Championship match nearly reached the required 100,000 signatures to elicit an official response, but was pulled before then for breaching the terms of service. And finally, and I wish I was making this up, but WWE is co-producing a straight-to-DVD feature, Jingle All the Way 2, starring Larry the Cable Guy and Santino Marella.
Oh, that could be comedy gold right there.
You would think that would be comedy gold.
What, Santino Marella? And Larry the Cable Guy?
No, it's going to be a huge steaming pile of shit.
Tarnishing a holiday classic.
That sounds like... Oh, well, I doubt that's highly possible, but, it's like matter and antimatter. You get them in the same room, there's going to be a boom, and that's what I'm hoping for there. Real quick, WhiteHouse.gov, petition to get Daniel Bryan a title match? Nice. I wish I had known about that, or I would have participated myself.
Well, I'm not surprised it got pulled because, there's not really anything they could do about that. I'm sure if, the president called up Vince and was like, hey, can you put this guy in a WrestleMania match? Then, he would probably do it. Or maybe he wouldn't, just despite...
Not this president.
Yes, not Republican stalwart Vince. Anyway, one more thing. We did touch about this a little bit last week, Omega, but the return of Chakra. Whoa. RMD, when he was here, said that it was all about Mike Quackenbush's ego, and he wasn't believing any of the stories about money problems over the past year, so...
I don't know. It's really hard for me to say why they did it. All I have to say about it is, speaking as a big fan of the promotion, and I know he used to be it. I know as a fan, if they had to do it for whatever reason, then at least they did it in a way that was halfway interesting and kept people relevant kept it relevant in people's minds, fresh in people's minds. Even if a lot of people hated it, which they did, and I wouldn't say I hated it, but I really didn't, enjoy it that much. All I really have to say is I'm glad that they're back and doing what they do best, which is putting on good wrestling programs with hopefully, zany yet fairly entertaining and straightforward storylines. That's kind of what I have to say about it. I just assume forget the last year half of these.
All right. Well, before we go to break here, real quick, if they don't offer DDP millions and millions and millions of dollars for DDP Yoga, all of those investors are bullshit.
The Shark Tank is full of dicks. I have watched that program, unfortunately, and I would not give you one foul cent for any of them. DDP's in for a rough time.
Really, all he has to do is march in Scott Hall and Jake the Snake and be like, these two guys were almost dead. I saved their lives. Give me your money.
I prefer if he marched in Kimberly, but that's a different story entirely.
I think Mark Cuban, if he's on, probably see the narrative. But here's an idea. How about It's a Wonderful Life 2 starring Justin Bieber and Hornswoggle as the agent?
No, if you're going to do that, you have to do Miracle on 34th Street, starring the Bella Twins as the little girl and Mick Foley as Santa Claus.
All right, please, I'm begging you, let's move along.
All right. Well, we're going to go to break, and then we will be right back with the 15-minute time limit and segment 3. We did run a little long in the news this time. I'm going to go ahead and blame NetJester. So we'll be right back with the second half and the second segment.